guys, and welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're here once again in this wonderful... Don't know what happened there. It's like I was possessed. Right, bye guys, as mentioned anyway, this is the Crawl Room for the Belgian Grand Prix, and what can be said about that race? Well, it was an absolute snooze fest, wasn't it? An absolute yawnathon. Hamilton won, Bottas was second, Verstappen was third, and nothing changed at all during the race at all, and there was minimal effort up front, it must be said. So thank you so much for the Renaults this weekend, and for Gasly, and for Norris, and for the racing point of Perez, and also for Kimi Raikkonen, because they at least made something exciting this weekend from fourth down. But, you know, other than that, it was an absolute snooze-a-thon. It was absolutely pathetic, the race. So as always, if you've never seen this series before and you've not just clicked off because you've seen a really weird Palmer sketch, this is the Crawl Room, and I rate drivers' performances from 10 for the best performance possible, down to 0 if I think you've done particularly badly. I can give you minus points if you've done really, really bad, and I can give you plus points if you've done really, really well. So we're going to kick things off with the race leader, Lewis Hamilton, and I'm not really going to talk about it because the top three bored the shit out of me. But it's the Crawl Room, and I've got fed up with it. I really have got fed up with it now, because I was having a discussion on Twitter the other day about how Bottas is the number 2 driver. They're like, oh no, he's just not as quick as Hamilton. Which I do agree, he's not as quick as Hamilton. But then this race, lap 6, okay Valtteri, that's it lad. That's it. Effectively, you're not racing Hamilton. You're staying second. You can't turn your modes up. You can't do anything with the car. You're going to stay second. And it just proves that the minute he signs a contract for the following year, it's like, right, you got above your station in the first race this season when you won. We'll sign you a contract. You are team bitch again. Okay. And fair play to Bottas. You know, fair play to Bottas. He's got the easiest job in the world. He needs to drive the fastest car in the Formula 1. And he only needs to be second quickest. So that's easy. How easy is that to be second quickest in the quickest car? Fantastic stuff by him. And yeah, it just means that Hamilton is just able to breeze off into the distance and win. And we had it this weekend with Hamilton, because we're 7 seconds up the road or whatever we were at the time. It was like, oh guys, what happened? I lost engine power. Now you're just harvesting the ERS. You're doing 309 kilometres and you're losing power. Fantastic stuff. I bet Ferrari wish they were in that predicament. And for later on in the race, yeah, that front right's not feeling good, guys. Well, that normally means that it's fine, and it was fine, and you won. So this weekend, I'm gonna give Hamilton a 0 because I can't be bothered with it. How can I rate an impressive performance when he's not even got a teammate to compare to, because Mercedes won't let that teammate race him? I'm not saying Bottas is good enough to beat Hamilton, but we don't even see a race anymore within the top 2. The only time we see a race for Hamilton is when Verstappen's got his shit together and Red Bull have got the shit together and they've got a car that's capable of winning. So I can't give him anything other than a 0 because I'm fed up at just mithering along and pretending everything's fine when it's not. The sport's on its knees, absolutely on its knees. And as for Bottas, he's now disqualified because I can't be bothered with him. I cannot be bothered with him. He can qualify half a second off his teammate and still be second. I just can't be arsed. So Bottas is disqualified, so we're not going to talk about Bottas anymore this season at all. His position now becomes nil and void. It's irrelevant. I'm not going to talk about him. And as for Lewis Hamilton, it is a no score this weekend, but he's not disqualified yet, so he can score points if he likes. Then we come to Verstappen, and again, it's just a measly performance once again by Max, but I give him credit where it's due because he's the only one that's taking it to the Mercedes. It wasn't his best drive though. He never even rivaled. He never even got close to Bottas or anything. I think he got within a second of him, maybe a couple of laps, but that was about it. Never did anything with it. And really, yeah, that was it. And he nearly had Ricciardo overtaking him. Had Ricciardo had another couple of laps, Ricciardo would have been on the podium this weekend. How much of a turn of fortune is that for Renault? But for Verstappen, I'm just going to give him 7. 7 points. It was okay. It was brilliant. Yeah, well done. I'm not bothered, is what I'm trying to say. The top 3 are boring now. They're boring me. Then we come to Daniel Ricciardo, and like I mentioned, what a turn of pace for Renault. What an absolute turn of fortune. They've gone from no points at all to a 4th and 5th place finish this weekend. Ocon getting the better of Albon in the last lap, and a fantastic measured drive by Ricciardo. P4 all race long. Unbelievable stuff. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And then to prove that he had tyres to go a little bit more than the other cars ahead because they were all struggling, he set fastest lap on the last lap. What a beautiful drive, Daniel. Fantastic stuff. I was hoping a car ahead had a problem. I weren't bothered who, but I just really wanted to see Ricciardo on the podium because that'd have just topped it off even more. But you can't improve on perfection. That was a fantastic drive, Daniel. So for that reason, Daniel Ricciardo is going to get 11 points. It was going to be 10 points, and then when he set that fastest lap on the last lap, I was like, no, that's worthy of the extra point in this cruel room as well as in the championship. So, fantastic. And a special mention to Renault as well for this, because their 4th and 5th place finish plus the fastest lap point is their best result since returning to Formula 1 in 2016, and the best result for the Enstone team since 2013 days with Raikkonen and Grosjean. So, well done, Renault. Really well done. You've turned it round this race, and it's going to be a long straight down at Monza as well, so I reckon more of the same from him. And of course, Esteban Ocon, a fantastic drive by him again, once again measured, got the better of Albon in the early stages of the race. The safety car period caused Renault to double stack, meant that Ocon lost out because he had to try and get a gap to Ricciardo, and lost out to Albon, and then on the last lap made it back and got him. So a fantastic drive there by Ocon. He got the better of Albon right at the end of the Kemmel Straight and secured P5, and it wasn't his fault they were behind him, it was just circumstances. If they didn't double stack, then that'd have been game over for Ocon altogether. So he recovered it well. 10 points for him, and it's going to be 9 points on the board here. I'm only just not giving him a full 10 points because Ricciardo did get the better of him this weekend, but I am not discrediting his drive whatsoever. 9 points is a solid effort, but I think Ricciardo's effort was that little bit more special that we need a couple of points to define it there between the two. But I'm not taking anything away from Ocon. That was impeccable. And then we come to Alex Albon, and what can we say about him? It's another one of those, isn't it? The curious case of Alex Albon, as I've said before. Qualified better, not brilliant, but better with P5. And then in the race, it was like, right, come on, if you can get ahead of Ricciardo, you can be P4 and stay P4. It's a lonely race in P4, but you're proving you're just one place behind Max. It didn't happen. They slipped behind the two Renaults. He didn't get the better of Ricciardo off the line, and Ocon got the measure of him, so he was down to P6. Then was P5 after his stop. He went on the mediums, didn't he? They tried something different to try and see if they could leapfrog the cars ahead. Some cars elected not to pit, Perez and Gasly. So they decided Albon, put him on the mediums instead of the Haas to hopefully give him the pace and then see how the race plans out. The race didn't go as well because he didn't actually get ahead of Ricciardo, and he only really made the pass on Gasly after the tyres had gone and the pass on Perez after the tyres had gone. So, yeah, it was a difficult weekend, really. And then on the mediums, he did a fantastic job. No credit for that, to make them last as long as the hards. But he lost out to Ocon at the end there, and that was a shame to see. And I've docked him a point for that. I was going to give him 8. I'm now going to give him 7, which is equal to Verstappen. And a lot of people are going to be going, yeah, but Verstappen did a better job all weekend. But, yeah, I'm rating them based on their own equal performance. Max should be up there rivaling Mercedes. He's not doing that. Albon should be up there trying to get on the back of Max. He didn't do that. And for that reason, they subsequently get the same point. So 7 points each to the Red Bulls. 7 points to Albon. And then we come to Lando Norris, and a quiet weekend warrior this weekend, it must be said. His race looked to not be going very well, did he? He qualified 10th. So was out-qualified by Sainz. And then in the race, he slipped down to 11th, 12th, somewhere around there. And then slowly just came back. His hard tyres were lasting a lot longer than the other cars around him. And he was just picking them off one by one. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, he's on the telly. We're getting a bit of telly coverage of him doing these moves. A fantastic drive there by Norris to take P7. That was really worthy because in the early part of the race, as mentioned, it looked like he was going to struggle to scrape a point. But then his hard tyres were lasting a lot better than the other cars around him. And fantastic to just climb his way through. P7 was the best he could hope for. I think there was something like a 6 or 7 second gap. For quite a while, and then he closed up on the back of Albon but just couldn't get round him. He was actually on the back of Ocon for a couple of laps as well. So, you know, the potential there was for 5th, really. But realistically, it was never going to get past both of them. Sadly, he didn't make either pass. But a worthy effort nonetheless. And I think 7th is a fantastic result regardless. So, brilliant effort by Lando. Didn't risk anything too silly on the last lap. Wanted to get the points he got, which is more than understandable. So for that reason, Lando Norris, I'm going to score him 8 points. I think it was a solid race weekend this weekend and thoroughly deserving. It's a shame he couldn't have picked Albon off or Ocon at one stage in the race or another, just to make sure, you know, I'd give him maybe an extra point or 2 for that. So, yeah, a solid 8 points though for Norris. Not discredited in his race whatsoever. That was a brilliant drive. And then we come to Pierre Gasly, the personal driver of the day by everyone, and my driver of the day was Ricciardo. Personally, but everyone's driver of the day voting, Pierre Gasly wins, and you can see why. It was on the hard compound tyre for the start of the race after qualifying P12. His teammate just ahead of him P11, so had choice of tyres, went for the hard tyres, and he rocketed up the field up to as high as 7th, 8th, somewhere around there, and then elected not to pit during the safety car period. And then we were like, oh, disaster. David Croft and Martin Brundle not having a clue what they're talking about. We're saying, oh, no, that's it. It's over for them. It's over for Perez and Gasly. They're never going to do it. They're never going to do it. And what did they do? They went and did it, didn't they? Absolutely fantastic by Gasly. And what made Gasly's drive particularly impressive was the fact that Perez pitted. He was on the same strategy as what Gasly was. And Perez was ahead of him. And in the end, it made Gasly got ahead of him. And he got ahead of another car as well. So Gasly ended up being a lot better than where Perez was. So a fantastic, fantastic effort by Gasly once again to score more points for the AlphaTauri team. Helped just a little smidge by team orders of Kvyat getting out of the way, but more than understandable when they're on completely different strategies. And yeah, a phenomenal drive by Pierre Gasly, and that's why I'm going to score him 10 points. A fantastic drive. One of my personal drivers of the year, without a doubt, this season. Pierre Gasly is delivering well. So, well done, Pierre. Fantastic drive. 10 points to you. And then we come to the 2 Racing Point guys. And what can be said about this? They're meant to be the B-Tech Mercedes. We were expecting them up there this weekend, weren't we? Second quickest car, we were all saying. And there they are, down in 9th and 10th, just picking up a couple of points. Yeah, a strange one, really. Lance Stroll just ahead of Sergio Perez. Stroll went with the same strategy most other drivers did. So, soft tyre, and then from the soft tyre onto the hards during the safety car period. And yeah, he slowly just tumbled down the order. He got as high as 6th, 7th, around there for most part of the race, but then Gasly came through on him. And it was just one of those things, really, for Stroll. So, yeah, it was an okay weekend, and it seems like the car is off the pace because Perez didn't gain as much as what Gasly did with the alternate strategy. So, it was clear to see that it wasn't the driver's issue this weekend from Stroll or Perez, just an apparent lack of pace. And it's such a strange thing because not only have they got the B-Tech Mercedes, but it's a circuit where previous lives of Force India and Jordan have gone fantastically well around here. So it's almost like it's embedded in this circuit that Racing Point or whatever its future guises are going to be, judging by its previous disguises and what it was, it looked like it was going to be a solid weekend for them, and it wasn't. So unfortunate in that sense, but overall, the 2 drivers, Stroll P9 and Perez P10, on an alternate strategy, ended up finishing close together. And I'm going to score them 7 points each. It's going to be 7 points for Lance Stroll and 7 points for Sergio Perez. And then we come to just outside the points with Danny Kvyat. And it looked like his race was going really well for starters, especially when it looked like Gasly had gone on the wrong choice of tyre after the safety car period and elected not to pit. And you thought, oh, brill. You know, Kvyat was up there 8th, 9th, and you thought, oh, he might get some points this weekend. And then the table switched, and there you go. It was Gasly getting the glory in the points once again. And Kvyat just missing out once again with a P11. I mentioned in the Team Crawl Wall previously in last week's episode that AlphaTauri really need both drivers scoring points now, even if it's just picking up a 9th and a 10th like what Racing Point did this weekend. And that one extra point, if Kvyat could have got it, could make all the difference. So we really do need to start seeing double points finishes from the AlphaTauri cars now. But they're getting closer to it, so they just need to achieve it now. One more place, that's all we need. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on at Monza. But yeah, for Kvyat, an okay race weekend. Outqualified his teammate 1 position, both having choice of tyres at the start of the race, P11 and P12. And then in the race, looked to be going well and then just slipped away at the end. just creeping outside the points, which is a shame for him. So for that reason, it's also going to be 7 points to Danny Kvyat. A good drive, a solid drive, a measured drive, but just not delivering what Gasly's delivering, unfortunately. And that's the end goal. We need some points, some more points from you now, Danny. And let's hope it happens in Monza, because I'm really liking the AlphaTauri boys this year. I think they're doing a really good job. I don't think the car's got the pace that they're both extracting out of it. And yeah, Kvyat just needs to eke that little bit more out the car. So 7 points to Danny Kvyat. And then we come to another personal favourite of mine this race. It is Kimi Raikkonen once again. Qualified 16th and finished the race in 12th. So a solid effort by him, just missing out on getting into Q2. And yeah, a fantastic drive by him. The best of the Ferrari engines down in 12th. Wow, oh wow. It's surprising to say that, isn't it? They have been diabolical, the Ferrari engine cars this weekend, particularly the Ferrari team themselves, but we'll come to them shortly. As for Raikkonen, though, a brilliant drive. A brilliant, brilliant drive. No doubt about that. The best Ferrari car, having some great battles, keeping the Ferraris behind him, and running in the points at one stage. Got as high as 10th, with the alternate strategies, of course, Gasly and Perez. And there was just that faint hope that maybe if someone retired ahead or we had another safety car, it could have put him in the points. So that's probably the closest they've got to genuine points, the Alfa Romeo team this season. With, you know, minimal retirements and things like that. It was good to see. It was a really strong character building drive by Raikkonen there. And as mentioned, on a circuit where Ferrari were doing really badly, it's a boost for the Alfa Romeo team, I think. I think they're going to take comfort in that. Raikkonen always seems to go well around Belgium, doesn't he? So yeah, a fantastic drive. So 9 points is what I'm going to award Kimi Raikkonen, and I'm only going to skimp off giving him not a full 10, and that's because in the early stages of the race before Giovinazzi binned it, Giovinazzi did manage to sneak ahead. So I think that is a fair reflection, but I'm not taking anything away from Raikkonen's race this weekend. There have been some drivers really over-delivering and over-performing this weekend, and then a lot of drivers underperforming as well, but we're going to get to those ones in a minute. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. 9 points to Raikkonen. And here we go to the ones that are under-delivering. It's the Ferrari pair of Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc. And what we're going to say for them: tragedy! When you're at the back and your pace is crap, it's tragedy! That's right, it is Ferrari. And there we go. It is a terrible, terrible weekend by them, isn't it? Vettel and then Charles Leclerc, P13 and P14 after qualifying P13 and P14. Wow, well done, guys. You did nothing. Yeah, we need to get some answers here now, don't we, with the Ferrari cars, because that was pathetic. That was pathetic. They've got an Alfa Romeo ahead of them. They were struggling around with the Haas's at one stage. They were just last. They were just absolutely crap. And yeah, it was Vettel ahead of Leclerc. Vettel finishing P13, Leclerc P14, and it doesn't matter. That was that is shite, isn't it? When you just literally think about that for 3 seconds and go, God, that is diabolical, isn't it? That is really, really bad. For that reason, I'm awarding Sebastian Vettel 0 points, and I'm awarding Charles Leclerc 0 points. I know it's the car, and I get that, but I have never seen a performance that bad from a Ferrari for years. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not blaming the drivers, but they've got the penalties. I'm just fed up of it, really, is what I'm trying to say. I am just incredibly annoyed at what is happening and what is going off. And how can I award them points when It's the cruel room, and I'm doing what I want, and I am doing what I want this weekend because it's really annoyed me. Some teams have annoyed me, drivers have annoyed me, teams have annoyed me, and I'm just fed up of it. So yeah, Ferrari drivers are getting 0 each, and that's how it has to be, I'm afraid. If you're feeling offended by that, and if you're feeling slightly offended by those 0 points, then please feel free to email me at themoaning@gmail.com. And yeah, leave all your bitter sour taste there, and just so I can have a suck on it and just go, oh, people's tears, oh, wonderful. So yeah, 0 points to the Ferrari drivers there. And then we come to Romain Grosjean, and an okay race, nothing special by him this weekend. Outqualified his teammate. And that's really about as all we can judge the Haas on. It was on the back of Leclerc and Vettel, and at one stage ahead, but Leclerc got the better of him towards the latter part of the race. And yeah, what can we say? It's just another one again, isn't it? The Ferrari engines really hampered him. And yeah, it was an okay race by Grosjean, nothing special this weekend. And yeah, kept it clean, kept it tidy. Didn't see any mistakes from him as well, which is worth pointing out. And yeah, an okay race, and for that reason I'm just going to award him 5 points. It's difficult to score the back of the grid cars, I know, and I think I'm being fair with 5 because there was nothing special from him. And yeah, if it had maybe snuck ahead of a Ferrari, I'd have given him a lot more points. But yeah, when you see the job that Raikkonen's doing, and yeah, I know it's not reflective because it's not the same car, but for me, 5 points is all I can give Grosjean when he really does need to leave Formula 1 now, to be honest with you. And then we come to Nicholas Latifi, and another lonely race by him, it must be said. Qualifying P19, well behind his teammate, who made it into Q2 once again. And then in the race, he was sort of measling around the back, and then he had 2 pit stops, so that wasn't great. And yeah, again, it's just one of those. I know he's trying to get better, and I know he's a new driver and stuff, but I am losing a little bit of faith with Latifi now, because George once again was out delivering him in that brief part of the race that George did take part in. And yeah, I'm struggling to judge him fairly, but when I have to reflect on, okay, I can't really go on what George did, but I can go on what Grosjean did, if that makes sense, because they're all running around in that sort of pace, and Grosjean did a better job this weekend compared to Latifi, and Leclerc and Russell was doing a better job during the race in the brief part that was in it. So for that reason, Nicholas Latifi, I'm going to award him 4 points. Yeah, not a great race by his standards, and yeah, he was firmly at the back for quite a while, wasn't he? And just managed to sneak ahead of K-Mag at the end, courtesy of a 2-stopper, but yeah, a shame really. 4 points is all I think is fair. And as mentioned, the last finisher of this race was Kimi Magnussen, and yeah, outshone by Grosjean this weekend, it must be said. But again, nothing spectacular by him. He had a good first lap, as always, like he always does, K-Mag. He qualified last after making a mistake. And then apart from that, then he just slipped down the order and finished behind Grosjean. So, a shame, really. A shame for K-Mag, and a really lonely race by him this weekend. And I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to only award him 3 points this weekend. I don't think they did anything. The Haas are struggling, I know. But I'm just not seeing anything from them. The Alfa Romeo boys this weekend were doing a lot better job. Russell was doing a lot better job than the 2 Haas's in the brief period that they were in it. And the Alfa Romeos I'm using more as a reflection because they've got the Ferrari engines in. And the Haas's just aren't doing anything. They're not keeping anyone excited at all, really, are they? So, yeah, just 3 points for K-Mag, I think is a little bit harsh. I know it's a little bit harsh, but judging by other performances this weekend, such as Raikkonen, they've not done anything. There's nothing to write home about there. So, yeah, there you go. Worse job than Grosjean, 3 points. And then we come to the retirements in the race. And first of all, it's Antonio Giovinazzi, the Italian stallion that sadly wiped out himself and George Russell from the race. And it was a shame. A shame to see that, because he was doing well. As mentioned, he was briefly ahead of Raikkonen, and the Alfa Romeos looked racy. And yeah, taking out Russell was just one of those things. His car bounced back on the track, as did his wheel that had separated, and hit Russell's wheel, and it pinged off, and into the wall he went. And yeah, Giovinazzi was doing a solid job, but because he crashed, causing a lot of damage to the car, and because he took Russell out, and he got out qualified by Raikkonen as well, I believe, I can only give him 1. I'm going to give him 1 solitary point, I'm afraid, because I can't be giving points out to people that crash. I'm going to give him 1 just based on the fact he got ahead of Raikkonen and was racing around with Raikkonen until the accident happened. So yeah, 1 point to Giovinazzi. As for George Russell, I think I can score his race a little bit fairer. Really just an innocent bystander in it all, and I want to commend him for some great evasive action as well. Because, let's face it, he had a car coming towards him that were in bits, he had a tyre coming towards him that was just, flailing off, and he caught the tyre, he caught the wheel, and he just clipped it, banged into the wall, and that was it. But Fantastic evasive action. He could have hit the side of Giovinazzi, and we could have seen a tragic accident once again around the circuits of Spa. So, commendation for you there, George. I think you did a brilliant evasive manoeuvre. And as for the race itself, Q2 once again, finishing P15. I was kind of hoping he'd beat a Ferrari, but he didn't quite manage it. And then in the race was, he went forward this weekend, which is the first time I think I've ever seen that. He went backwards then forwards. He slipped down to 17th, but then got as high as 14th, and then slipped down a little bit when the Alphas got past, and then eventually the spin, and he was out. But I think had Russell carried on racing, it'd have definitely been ahead of Latifi, it'd have been ahead of the two Asses, and I think it'd have probably been mixing it up with the Williams, and that's what... and I think it'd have been mixing it up with the Ferraris, and that's why it's a shame that I didn't see him race, because I think it'd have been interesting if he could have got a Williams in between the two Ferraris. That would have been good to see. So for George Russell, I'm not going to score him anything spectacular. It's just going to be a middle-of-the-road 5 points this weekend. He scores 1 more point than Latifi because he had a lot better pace than Latifi in the early stages of the race that he took part in, and he out-qualified him once again. And I just got a feeling that Russell was feeling very racy this weekend, and as mentioned, could have been mixing it up with the Ferraris. So we're never going to know fully, but I think 5 points is fair, a middle of the road there, and yeah, better look at the next race, George, because that was unfortunate. And then last but by no means least, it's the driver that didn't start. Once again, another one. This rarely happens in Formula 1 these days, but twice this season. Hulkenberg, of course, at Silverstone, and starts at the Belgian Grand Prix, where unfortunately his car had an exhaust issue, and that was it. He was out before the race even began. So to keep it short and sweet, I'm just going to score Carlos Sainz a middle-of-the-road 5 points, because at the end of the day, we're never going to be able to judge his race performance. The qualifying performance, he did out-qualify Norris. In the race, we're never going to know how he did. So for that reason, middle-of-the-road 5, I think he's fair. He certainly does deserve to be scored points, and I have to give him something. So middle-of-the-road 5 keeps him... his points in check, and hopefully better luck in Monza where we can score you more accurately. So there you go, guys. That was the runners and riders of the Belgium Grand Prix. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below on the absolute snooze fest. Did I get any drivers high? Any too low? We've had a few controversial scores here this weekend, I feel, and hopefully should raise a few eyebrows. It's called the Cruel Room. It's all a bit of a joke, so calm your tits if you got this far and you're highly offended. And as always, the driver's screen is on there now, and you're able to see who's in the lead of the current Cruel Room Championship and who's not doing so well. It's all getting mixed up, isn't it, on there? So yeah, let me know your thoughts and feedback down below, and do you agree with the leader? Who knows? And thanks a lot for watching, guys, and much love!